welcome back to 237, back with another review. And this is a film from Hulu, or that I watched on Hulu, but it's not a first time watch, although it might as well have been. Because I've seen this before at least 15 years ago, maybe more. Didn't remember a thing from it. I just remember not liking it at all, especially like a number of films of this kind from this era. And I haven't reviewed too many. Uh, uh, I do need to do more. Uh, I think I've only done one actually, but being a huge slasher fan, I really don't really like slashers from the 90s. And people group 90s slashers all together or with 80s. And no. 90s slashers can be broken up into two groups. There's the first group, which was, screw it. We're kind of a joke anyway. Slasher's dead. Let's just be as crazy and as silly as possible for the fun of it. Like the Leprechaun films, like the two Jack Frost films, Pinocchio's Revenge, Uncle Sam Wants You Dead. But then in 96, with the success of Scream, we had the sexy teen CW slasher era, where there was higher budgets, better production value, a huge, good-looking cast, and a killer. And not very bloody either. So, you had Scream, its sequels, apparently, of course, its biggest ripoff would have been I Know What You Did Last Summer, which I'm not a fan of. I only saw the first sequel. Valentine, which I hated. And this film, which I used to put with Valentine, but I remembered so little of it that this pretty much felt like a first time watch. And these are my thoughts on it. Have my thoughts changed? It is 1998's Urban Legend. So yeah, this is another. This has been called a blatant ripoff of Scream. It was one of the biggest criticisms when it first came out. It has a 23 on Rotten Tomatoes, which I completely disagree with. I will say that of the mid to late 90s, early 2000s, CW teen slashers, Scream-esque slashers, this is one of the better ones. I probably will say Scream is still the best, but I will put this up there with it. It is better than the I Know You Did Last Summer films. It's better than Valentine. I guess you could put H2O in because it's Halloween done in that way. It's better than H2O. I can't even remember some other slashers from that period, but going back to it now, it's actually pretty decent. I mean, I definitely have flaws with it, but I think mostly I enjoy the concept very much. I really like the idea. The MO of the killer is very interesting. Take 7, but instead of the 7 deadly sins, it's urban legends. And we don't just see the aftermath, we see him tracking down and killing all these kids. That's a great idea. I love that idea. The look of the killer, I noticed in the 90s I don't know if they were going for iconic or just simple. I mean, Ghostface is literally a ghost mask in a cloak. The fisherman is just a slicker and a hook. And then this is just a parka with the hood up. That's all it is. Which, it does lead to some stupid fake outs and some dumb jump scares, which is a problem I have with it. I mean, to a point where a character walks in to the swimming pool area where our lead is seeing her friend swim, and in comes this parka person. We think it's going to take out a weapon, but it's just another female student. There's a lot of dumb fake outs like that, which is probably the biggest problem. But I'll get to all that. So this is actually a first-time director, Jamie Blanks, who I think wanted to do I Know What You Did Last Summer. He would go on to do Valentine, go figure, which this is a much better film. Written by Silvio Horta. It stars a very recognizable cast. Of course, you got Jared Leto, who, given the right material, I think he's a phenomenal actor. Uh, Dallas Buyers Club, Requiem for a Dream. I don't like him in Suicide Squad, but I have to say that, or else people in the comments will be like, "He also played Joker in Suicide." Yes, I'm aware. Um, I think this is the earliest film of his I've seen, unless this came out the same year as Girl Interrupted. But so we have Jared Leto, Alicia Witt as our lead, Rebecca Gayheart, Tara Reid, who's been in a lot of things, Michael Rosenbaum, who played Lex Luthor in Smallville. Who was the Joshua Jackson, who I think was in Dawson's Creek. He's one of the lead kids. A kind of nothing role for Danielle Harris, which I think she ties into like the horror cameo, because I feel like where Scream really tackled tropes of slashers, this is taken just cameos. We have Danielle Harris, we have Brad Dourif in the opening in an uncredited role, having a severe stutter. I don't know if that's a reference to Cuckoo's Nest or what, but Brad Dourif is always great. Robert Englund playing a professor. Julian Richings, who plays the janitor. He was in David Lynch's Naked Lunch. He played Three Finger in the first Wrong Turn. He was the first one to play Three Finger. And honestly, I have to say, Loretta Devine was probably the best performance. She plays Reese Wilson, the campus officer, which I think she was like a dorm director at one point. So, I mean, pretty much just did that. But she was very believable. She was one of the funniest characters as well. There's a running gag that she just watches Pam Grier movies and kind of pretends to be her until she gets to at the end. And yeah, I mean, basically, we have the opening kill, which is the legend of the gas station attendant trying to lure the patron inside because there's someone in the back seat, but they don't fall for it. Gets decapitated. And yes, the director did want to tone down the violence, and I guess a lot of the violence in the script was not shot on purpose. Even though the opening kill was supposed to have the head rolling down the road after. Oh, before I go any further, yes, I do know that Scream Factory has a Blu-ray out. As a slasher collector, I mean, if I own Valentine, I have to pick this up. But I would like to own this. I do like it enough to own it. So it tackles the killer in the back seat, legend. Some of them are just referenced, like there's a reference to Bloody Mary, or like the pop rocks and the soda making you explode. Something about the Love Roller Coaster song having a real scream in it. But ones that actually are reenacted in the film, 4 kills, is the killer in the back seat, the couple parking, boyfriend leaves, girlfriend hears noises on the roof, it is the boyfriend hanging from a tree, hitting the car. That's a kill. There's even a mention of the Hatchet Man legend, which can be traced, the origins of which is the serial killer Richard Speck. Technically, he's a mass murderer or spree killer, but there's the headlight legend, where you drive without your lights. someone flicks theirs to warn you, you chase them down and kill them. There's that. Uh, a roommate being strangled and then written on the wall in blood is, aren't you glad you did turn on the lights? One about the old lady that tried to dry her dog off in the microwave, which might be the goriest scene. Thankfully, we don't actually see it. We just get the shot from inside the microwave. When he opens it, there's just blood and like a little bit of carcassy looking material. But, and then a lot of the legends are kind of stupid. Like Tara Reid, that works for the school radio, but all she does is talk about sex. A lot of them are sex-related legends that I don't really care about. And of course, the babysitter upstairs, the When a Stranger Calls legend, which is actually mentioned twice. But yeah, for me, it's a great concept. It's a great idea, but the film does do a good job at just pulling off these legends and killing people. You know, using that as an MO for the killer. But it does fall victim to just having a lot of over-the-top jump scares. I mean, there's even a scene with Pop Rocks and Coke, or soda, where the guy pretends he's exploding, and the music is just going like, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, but he's just faking it. It could have been bloodier. If this had been more effective and creepy and atmospheric, then it could have gotten away with not having much blood, like Halloween. But I will say the cast, they all do fine, but I didn't really care for much of the characters, save for Jared Leto and Alicia Witt. They were the only ones I really liked. Michael Rosenbaum, he's the frat douche. The guy from Dawson's Creek, he's the loudmouth jokester. Tara Reid is Rosenbaum's girlfriend, but she's just sex obsessed. And then the one girl, Brenda, played by, what was her name? Rebecca Gayheart. She just kind of acts kind of a bimbo-y, which there's more I have to get to later, but. And also, yeah, a lot of the setups for scares I don't think really worked. Again, you have stuff like the parka guy walking into the swimming pool, but is just a friend. And it's like fall or spring, like it's warm. Supposedly this takes place in New Hampshire, but there's a car with Maine plates. Oh, which the dean is played by John Neville, who has a long acting career. Which his is the guy under the car to slit the ankle or the tendon myth. But really, the scene that worked the best for me is the opening. I mean, the way she drives off and it just zooms right in on Brad Dourif with the lightning and the rain and just the echoey scream of, "There's someone in the backseat." I love that. Yeah, I did think it did throw a lot of legends in there, but the opening, the one with the hanging from the tree, surprisingly, it didn't have the hook. I would have thought it did. It is a good-looking film. I mean, it is well-made for a first-time director. It does have that, not big budget, because it was only made for like $14 million, I think. I think it was made for like 14. Yeah, made 14 and grossed 72.5, so it was a decent hit. But it does have that big Hollywood look that earlier slasher films did not have. And then just, in a lot of slashers at this time, were really focusing on the mystery and red herrings and fake outs, which, yes, slashers were heavily inspired by Italian Giallo, which is a murder mystery. But even slashers, after a while, was just like, oh, there's a guy with this mask. He's running around killing people. No mystery. These ones really go back to the Giallo formula. I mean, Scream was a mystery. Valentine, Know What You Did Last Summer. Ton of red herrings. And I actually forgot who the killer was. And I will say what it does do well is the usage of its red herrings. There were several times where I was like, oh, I bet it's him, or I bet it's him. There's even a sequence towards the end where it shifts your attention from scene to scene, like, oh my god, it's him. Oh, wait, no, it's him. All within a matter of just seconds. And it is good at making you think it is that person. It does execute the red herrings well, I thought. To the point where when the killer was revealed, I was like, okay, I did not see that coming at all. I had completely forgotten who the killer was because I didn't give a shit about this movie the first time I saw it. I hated it like I did Valentine. And before I get into spoilers and talk about the killer, the reveal, and the ending and everything, is it one of my favorite slasher films ever? Not even close. I could probably put 20 to 30 slasher films over this. Of the 90s, this era, this style, the 90s CW slashers, I could say it's the second best to Scream. Though, I might like the idea of using urban legends as the MO more than just going around stabbing people, because that's another thing. You do get a variety of the kills here, whereas I Know What You Did Last Summer is just a hook. Scream is a bunch of stabbings with a knife. Here you do get a variety of kills. I mean, even the pop rocks and the soda was used as a demonstration in the class that Robert Englund teaches, but the killer then does take like a beer bong or whatever and dumps the pop rocks down the guy's throat, but then takes Drano instead of Coke, and that kills him. Or, the tendon slit, then the guy falls on the spikes in the parking garage, and then the car goes over him. So you do get a variety of deaths. I will give it that. But some of the acting, especially towards the end, a lot of the fake outs, I don't know, it feels like there's something missing. There's something that makes me... Oh, and then just the characters. I really only was following Alicia Witt and Jared Leto. They were really the only ones I liked. And even Jared Leto starts out kind of questionable. Character, not performance. But, I mean, it's decent. It is a better looking film than it actually is a good movie. But it is well shot, especially a lot of the wide establishing shots, especially with the rain and the lightning. I love the look of the killer's lair, kind of, at the dilapidated hall where supposedly there was a massacre 25 years prior. Which, it does have the backstory and the motivation of the killer is something you would have seen in like a good 80s slasher. There was like a past traumatic event that's kind of used as the backdrop. Then there's a traumatic event personally for the killer that ties in. So it does use that well too. Even for who it is, I was like, okay, I didn't see that coming, and that works. But the performance of the killer, I do have issues with. But it is good looking. It is well made on a technical level. But yeah, a lot of the characters and the pacing, I guess, and just too many fake outs and jump scares. But yeah, with that, I'm going to get into spoilers. So, I probably should have said this before spoilers, but yeah, apparently 25 years prior, there was a massacre, and we find out throughout the film that, it was covered up by the campus, which is another urban legend. We find out that Robert Englund's character was the sole survivor. He has a bunch of murderabilia in his office, like a parka and an axe. Which, side note, apparently Tara Reid did all her own stunts, and the stuntman did use a real axe during her death scene. So it's really trying to make it look like it's Robert Englund. Of course, it's not. We see him pop up dead. And then there's the scene where it's the Rebecca Gayheart, Alicia Witt, and Jared Leto. Everyone else has been killed. They're trying to get help. Jared Leto goes in the gas station. The two girls smell something in the car. They look, it's Robert Englund's body. So now we think it's Jared Leto. They run away. Brenda, Rebecca Gayheart, she trips. Alicia Witt, Natalie, flags down a truck. It's the janitor. The janitor has the same parka. And so we went from Jared Leto to the janitor. And of course, he looks and acts creepy. And every time the movie does point your attention, like I said, it does work. Like I was thinking, it's got to be Robert Englund. Also because it's Robert Englund. But then I was thinking, oh, it could be Jared Leto. The movie did make a point that he's desperate for a journalist career and that he's looking for a story. And he gets fired from the school paper. But then the janitor, he showed to have some knowledge of the massacre from 25 years ago. But no. She's in the truck with the janitor. She's trying to get him to stop. We think it's him. But oh, someone does the headlight gag again. Chased, wreck. Natalie runs to get help. Of course, Brenda tripped a while back. So then she makes it to an emergency phone next to the derelict campus house where the massacre was. She hears screaming, sees a light, runs up. And I do really like the look of this. It kind of looked like the interior of the Myers house from Halloween 5, but better, with all these candles. Bodies everywhere. She sees Brenda laying on the bed. But when she sits up, she knocks out Natalie. Natalie's tied to the bed. She's our killer. Brenda's our killer. Backstory is because when we find out that Natalie was friends with the girl from the opening, we find out that when they were friends, they did the high beam gag on the road. They chased a guy. He got in an accident and died. Turns out it was Brenda's boyfriend. That's her motivation. They were doing an urban legend. He died. So now she's killing all her friends via urban legends. And Natalie's death is going to be the kidney heist, where the guy follows the girl back to a hotel. He gets drugged, wakes up in a tub, and his kidney's missing. But by now, Reese, the campus officer, has already found a bunch of evidence. She even slipped on a bunch of blood at one point, found a body. So now she gets to go into Pam Grier mode and comes to help. And my problem with the killer, even though the backstory, the motivation, and everything, I buy that. I like that. She's basically just doing a Michelle Pfeiffer impression. That's what I got. Just with her eyes and her frizzy hair. She reminds me of Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman, as crazy Catwoman from Batman Returns. And she's so over the top to the point where it's just laughable and silly. I can't take her seriously. And yeah, just really feels like she's doing like Michelle Pfeiffer times 11. And it really kind of took me out of it. And even when she's explaining everything, Jared Leto comes out like, great, excellent. I'm like, oh my god, is there another twist? But no, he's just trying to trick her. And then the endings I have a problem with, where, okay, she attacks the officer, gets her gun, she's holding Leto and Natalie, but oh, she's got another one, shoots her, she drops her gun, Natalie grabs it, shoots her again, and she falls out the window, like a 2-3 story window, but we don't see her land. So when Natalie and Leto get back in the car to drive off, we have what I thought was going to be the final scare, which was them talking about, hey, this is going to be an urban legend someday, but it's going to change, you know, names and events change. And he says, well, if this is an urban legend, when do we get to the twist? Brenda pops from the back seat with the axe, which, bullshit, shot twice, fell out of that window. I don't buy her coming back. Michael Myers, I do believe, can be shot 6 times, fall off a balcony, and get up. Her, I don't buy it. Even so, they get on this small bridge. He hits the guardrail. She flies out the windshield, and we just see her floating down the river, only to jump sometime later at another campus where they tell the story of the movie. And they're like, that didn't happen. That's not real. And we hear someone say, oh, I believe you. Only that's not what happened. You guys really want to know what happened? And it's Brenda. Somehow she's still fucking alive. I have a problem with all those endings. I would have rather her fall out the window, cut it there, no twist. I understand they needed one because of urban legends, but it, along with her just over-the-top performance, her being that hard to kill literally makes her like a cartoon. That was a major problem that I had with it. Not enough to make me call this a rant or anything, but it was a major problem that I had. But overall, I mean, it's well directed, decently acted by the entire cast. Even the characters I couldn't stand, they played their parts well. The kills, even though not super bloody, you know, they were creative enough, and in recreating these classic urban legends. Yeah. But most of all, I would have to say the concept is what sells it to me. I like the concept more than I do the movie. And even though I like the film, I mean, even though I don't do ratings, you know, if I had to give it a percentage or, you know, a something out of 10, it would probably be like a 6 point something out of 10 or 5 point something, probably 6 point something, because I did like it more than I didn't. But yeah, at the same time, I can also see why it was kind of forgettable, and maybe why no one really talks about it now. But as far as 90s teen slashers go post-Scream, this is the second best next to Scream itself. Now, the sequels are on Hulu. I don't think, maybe I'll check those out. I already haven't seen them, so those would be a first-time watch. I don't have any desire to as of now. Maybe I will at some point. But Urban Legends was a pleasant surprise. I was expecting to go back into it hating it like I did the first time, like I did with Valentine. But I was surprised. It pulled off its red herrings well as well. That was another big positive. But yeah, a very decent 90s teen slasher, and that's not something you'll hear me say often. But anyway, I'm going to get back to Hulu's Into the Dark series, so stay tuned for those. Again, I don't know if I'll do the sequels to this, but thank you for watching.